By 1949, Germany had virtually shut down immigration. Hitler understood the Jews were not wanted and began the final solution. In August of 1941, Oma Selma knew she and Uncle Gunther were trapped. She wrote, "I tried everything that was possible, but now everything is hopeless, and what that means for us isn't pretty." I suspect she knew what was in store for them by this point. Unbeknownst to Werner at the time, Oma Selma, Aunt Bertha, and Uncle Michael had been forced to move from their apartment and were relocated to the Jewish old age home, which was repurposed to become a way station for those Jews to be deported. Oma Selma's last letter, ironically, was written on November 10th, 1941, 3 years to the day from when my father had been arrested and beaten, and 2 days after Uncle Gunther had been deported to the Minsk ghetto, never to be heard of again. Because the Nazis were censoring letters, she carefully couched what she said. "Gunther is no longer here with me. Gunther still wanted to write you, but he was no longer able to get to it. He's sending you love." I wonder if my father understood what that meant. In July 1942, my grandmother and Aunt Bertha were put on the train to Auschwitz and immediately gassed. Uncle Michael was sent to Theresienstadt, where he died in November of that year from pneumonia. In one of Aunt Bertha's last letters to my father, she wrote, "It is possible that one day I'll make it over the great pond, but perhaps by then you'll be waiting for me with your boy or maybe a sweet little girl, and you will very carefully pick up your old shaky aunt from the dock. I am here to tell you, I am that little girl, and 82 years later, I am making sure that these people are not forgotten and we remember the history."
Continue with chapter 3.
Written upon a scrap of paper found between two wooden beds. Gertrude is my name. There were many Gertrudes in our town, but in this long, cold barracks there is no Gertrude but me. There is an Anushka here who comes from the Ukraine, and Gittel from Poland, Helen from Germany, and Grazia from Greece, and a continuing long list of those who once were women. What cruel, callous magnet drew us here from all corners of the continent and cast all of us into one mold? Wooden shoes and a dress of coarse fabric, a blanket to cover our body in a cold that knows no mercy, and a tin plate and a spoon that never could hold enough to satisfy the incessant gnawing hunger. The past is becoming blurred, replaced only by the present, today, right now, this moment, the sewing machine, a portion of foul soup, the lineup where some of us collapse and from which others are plucked away to disappear, accompanied by shrieks and dogs, and no one knows where. The present fills all of our existence. About the future no one speaks, and with difficulty I remember the past. Oh, how foolish and blind we were. We rejected the advice to abandon the homeland, to emigrate to the distant east, and we hid ourselves from the signs, no Jews allowed. Our ears we sealed from hearing the hateful speeches, for they were just words, and what can words really accomplish? With all our might, we wanted to believe that if only we would humble ourselves a short while, the storm would pass and be no more. Even after the night of the burning synagogues, when the streets were covered with shattered glass, we continued hoping for the best, since nothing worse could come to pass, and after all, everyone was cultured there. Alas for the blind fools who did not know what the future held. It was on a Friday night. We were sitting in the salon, and my crippled, wheelchair-bound father, Manfred, was singing along, with the choir being broadcast on the radio. Suddenly, the door was broken down, and they entered, black uniforms and shining boots. They shoved father into an adjoining room, and they commanded us to pack a suitcase within 10 minutes. Where you are going is safe and sheltered, they said. Hurry, hurry. Later, only interrupted images and fragmented sounds, an isolated rifle shot, the vacant stares of the neighbors, the frozen city square, a mother's farewell cry, the filthy truck, the boxcar with not a breath of fresh air, the long barracks with nothing but wooden beds and the sour-faced capo. Our hair they shaved when they brought us into the barracks, and in place of the six-pointed yellow star, they burned a blue number into our arms. And from that moment, only sewing and sewing from morning till night without rest, day after day, hats, coats, shirts, and trousers appropriate for the shining boots. At first, I still asked why. Why me? Why us? Why now? But I stopped asking. The question is more painful when there is no answer. Tonight they will take us, all of us, to another location. This is what the capo told us. And she did not add another word, but her face was gloomy. I am writing all of this on scraps of paper, and if a human being should ever find them, perhaps he will have the strength to ask for a reason why there was no.
Chapter 4.
Confronting the abyss. The last words of Yaakov, David, Ben-Yoel, Tzvi, Halevi. 4 times I was born, and once already have I died. My first birth was accompanied by the joyful voices of my parents and my 8 brothers and sisters when I came into the world with the help of God, may he be blessed, 25 years ago. I was born 3 other times over the past 10 years, during which time I also died once. After that death, no death could ever frighten me. The second time, I was born on the night of the selection when they gathered us, all the males in town, to the central square. The stars had disappeared and only the yellow patches flickered in the darkness. We were told to form a long line and strip to the waist. One by one, we passed by the light of a dim oil lamp near a devil dressed in black, who with the wave of a hand directed to the left or the right. At once I realized that the strong and the sturdy were being sent to one side, and the young and the aged to the other. Hastily, I filled my shoes with dirt to gain a few centimeters in height. Swelling my chest, I even walked on my toes as I passed by him. I was sent with the sturdy. Later, we heard the shots, and I knew that my life had been given to me as a gift. Blessed be his name. The third time I was born, when 1,000 of us were taken to walk in front of soldiers on a battlefield. The area was full of mines, and we formed a living wall before the troops. Each and every day our number diminished as comrades ripped apart were left behind as food for the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. 78 of us survived the march. I felt that our lives began anew when we finally reached the barn where we were favored with our daily portion of thin soup. Blessed be the Lord each day. The 4th time I was born later that night, I'd left the barn for the yard behind it, where I managed to catch sight of a spark from a match and the sickening smile of the one who had lit it. Since the living wall had fulfilled its mission, it was no longer needed. The barn went up in flames, and all my comrades soared heavenward on the flaming pyre, a sacrificial offering ascending to God. May he be blessed. Whoever has been born 4 times will not die only once. My death came to me after I had fled from the sight of the fire. I was captured by locals and forced into a boxcar on its way to the place where work makes one free. An orchestra greeted us, and all of us were led, holding soap and a towel, to wash our sweat-covered bodies. The smell of flesh on fire confused our senses. The soap seemed to be burning in our hands, and the orchestra was playing. Thanks to God's mercies for me, I was removed from the line at the last moment and did not become part of the naked mass shoved into the room so savagely. The door slammed with a deafening noise, and from the room burst forth sounds that no words can adequately describe. The howling hiss of gas streaming in accompanied by a mingling of faint and feeble cries. Shema Yisrael and Mamala, the Lord our God, and Madre Mia, the Lord is one, and Tatala, followed by a low murmuring sound. Here my task began, to remove the bodies, to pull out gold teeth, to shove the dead into the oven. When I pulled out the teeth of my brother Lazer, who I had not seen for years, my heart died within me. My body continued to live, but I became one of the walking dead. The Lord gave me life, and the Lord took it away. May the name of the Lord be blessed. How the Master of the universe has taken such trouble to ensure that we would lose our faith in him. Yet in spite of his wrath and his rage, we have refused to succumb. When I die again, tear not your garments, mourn not, for there is no death after death. Do not even attempt to ask why. What I have not accomplished for myself, let others not try to accomplish on my behalf.
Chapter 5 includes a congregational refrain, which is Al Eile Ani Bochia, for these I weep. Page 50. בת קול משמיים מרחפת ואומרת, על אלה אני בוכייה. על הוריה של גרטרוד, שנקראו זה מזה בפירוט. על אלה אני בוכייה, על גרטרוד ואנושקה וגיטל והלנה וגרציה, שכלה כוחן במחנות העבודה. על אלה אני בוכייה, על אנשי היודנראט, ועל הקאפו היהודיה, שנדרשו למלא תפקיד, שאין אדם יכול למלאו. על אלה אני בוכייה, על יעקב דוד בן יואל צבי הלוי, שמת במים ונולד ארבע. על אלה אני בוכייה, על שמי עוד 22 חברו, שעלו השמיימה בשדות המוקשים. על אלה אני בוכייה, על 77 ניצולים, שעפרם סבור במות בהן. על אלה אני בוכייה, על לזר שעף במזווים, שבחלומותיו לא ראה את אחיו, עוקר את שיני הזהב מגופתו. על אלה אני בוכייה, על אלה אני בוכייה, ועל המיליונים הדחוקים בגטאות ובמחנות המעבר, המשוטטים בעיירות ועל המוסתרים במרתפים ובכוכים. על מי שמצא מקלט בחיק דת אחרת, או איבד את אלוהיו. על מי שניתן לניסויים בידי חיות טרף, ששם רופא ומדען נקרא עליהם. על מי שמת ברעב ובצמא, נחנק למוות ברכבת מסע, או בתאי הזגזים, נורא נקבר חי או נשרף. על מי שהוצא להורג בדליו, למען יראו ויראו, על מקדשי שם שמיים ושם ישראל, שסרבו להיכונו ונלחמו עד מוות. על מי שאיבד את ביתו וכבודו ותקוותו. על מי שנותר בחיים לחיות את הזוועה מחדש, יום יום ורגע רגע. על אלה אני בוכייה, על עוללים שלא למדו להגות עמה, על ילדים וילדות שנעוריהם נגזלו מהם והם קמלו טרם פריחה, על עלמים ועלמות שלא נתברכו מתחת לחופה, על זקנים שלא זכו לשיבה של חסד, על התזמורות ועל המוזיקה ועל כל יפי העולם שעבדה לו צבעוניותו, וכולו רק חום ואפור ושחור. על כל אלה אני בוכייה. Chapter 6.
Let there be light again. Again did the chronicler speak. At the edges of the night, the first rays of dawn could be discerned. They shone upon the remnants of human beings in striped clothing, who stared at their surroundings with dead eyes. They have forgotten how to be happy, and their bodies reject any food offered them. Bulldozers thrust into gigantic pits thousands of thin, naked corpses that fall one on top the other, their limbs withered. In camps of the uprooted, circled human streams, searching in despair for members of their families, and they were afraid to hope lest their hope be lost. The unfortunates who tried to return to their homes found in them hostile neighbors from time to time, and more than once they were saved only by a miracle from murder following murder. People who did not know or who had sought not to know, who refused to believe or who forbade believing, stood with tearful eyes, not knowing where to direct their gaze or how to cleanse their conscience. Slowly, people returned to their homes, and family members were reunited. People married again, and children were born. Wave upon wave poured into the east, and the state of Israel arose, and centers of Jewish life flourished throughout the world. Trains traveled to resorts once again, and orchestras were making joyous music in all corners of the land. Perhaps this is the way in which heaven sought some consolation for those who suffered and mourned. The heroism of courageous resistors was revealed and proclaimed, and mourners' Kaddish was recited for the dead. Memorial books were written. Monuments were erected so that finally mourners could find a place where they could weep for their dead. Criminals were punished, and those who were afflicted in body or soul received help. Nevertheless, it was impossible to restrain the angel of dreams, who continues to terrify the rescued night after night. Impossible to silence the gnawing voice of conscience, which demands an explanation for satanic evil and for apathetic hearts. Such questions, why God, why? Why us? Why them? Why now? Why in that way? Are left suspended in midair, hovering over all human deeds, and there is no response. Time will tell what we have learned. Only time will reveal whether we truly have listened to the voice of the blood of the slaughtered, crying out from the earth. Do not mourn too much, but do not sink into the forgetfulness of apathy. Do not allow days of darkness to return. Weep, but wipe the tears away. Do not absolve, and do not exonerate. Do not attempt to understand. Learn to live without an answer. Through our blood, live.
Page 62. Please rise. El Mali Rachamim Shochen Bamiromim Hamze Menucha Nechona Dachad Ganvei Ashchina B'malot Kedoshim Utorihim Gezohar Ragia Mazirim Et Nishmot Kol Acheinu B'nei Yisrael Shenitbechu Bashoah Anashim Nashim B'tav Shenechneku V'shenisrafu V'shenergu Shemasru et Nefsham Al Kiddush Hashem B'Gan Eden Deit Menuchatam Ana Bala Rachamim Hasireim B'Seiter Kenafecha Leolamim Utzro B'Sur HaChayim Et Nishmoteim Adonai Unachalatam Vayanuchu B'Shalom Al Mishkevoteim V'nomar Amen Yitkadal V'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh Vitadar, vitale, vitalal, shmei dekudsha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran de'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, yasei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We'll finish on page 68. Kol od v'alevav v'nima בשנות 2000 להיות עמך ושיהיה בארצנו ארץ ציון ירושלים. Thank you again, once again, to our speaker, Joan, and thank you to the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center in White Plains for helping us connect. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you have a meaningful Yom HaShoah. Please return the Yom HaShoah books up here. And Yasher Koch to all of our readers. Beautiful. Thank you, Mike.
I just want to say, what?
Glad you're here.